The shot you see right here is not being recorded on a professional mirrorless camera or even a point and shoot camera. It's being recorded on this tiny little $200 webcam that honestly should not look this good. My mind is kind of blown. This is the YOLO Cam S3, and it's YOLO Live's most affordable webcam option designed for creators, streamers, podcasters, and more. We are constantly on the hunt for affordable cameras for creators, so when YOLO Live reached out and asked if we wanted to test out their S3, we absolutely jumped at the opportunity because we've seen nothing but good things about this camera. When you open up the box, of course, you'll get the camera, which is the YOLO Cam S3. With that, you'll get the magnetic mount, which includes a 1/4-20 thread on the bottom, so you can either mount this directly to your computer screen and just clip it right on there, or you can mount it to different stands or tripods. It's just really flexible to choose wherever you want to set up this camera. You also get a USB-C to USB-A type cable, as well as a USB-C adapter, so you can connect this cable to USB-C devices. Getting this camera set up is honestly so easy. Just grab the USB-C cable, plug that in to the camera, and then run the other end directly into your computer and use that little adapter if your computer needs it. Then you could download the YOLO Live Composer app, which is going to unlock some additional functionality for this camera, which I do recommend downloading, but it's not always necessary, and you do get pretty great image quality straight out of the box if you don't want to use that app. Then you'll just open up your recording or streaming software of choice on your computer. In my case, I like to record directly onto OBS, which is a free software that allows you to record and stream from your computer. Then you'll just select the YOLO Cam S3 as your video source, and you should be able to see your image and you're good to go. Now, right away, when you plug in this camera, you'll see it's a massive improvement over whatever internal webcam your computer currently has. So I'll show you a couple side-by-sides of my MacBook Pro's internal webcam at this same setup, and then bouncing back and forth between the YOLO Live webcam. So you can see this, the S3 looks incredible. There's some depth of field because of the really large sensor. This camera has a 1/1.3 inch sensor, which is one of the biggest size sensor webcams that you'll find on the market. And really that is what's contributing to this great image quality. Typically, some of these webcam sensors are just so tiny, but the larger sensor in the S3 is what's making this image look so good. You can see that the lights right here in the background are nice and soft and out of focus. It's because of this larger sensor that's featured in the S3. And here's a quick low light test of the low light capabilities of the S3. And I'll show you a split screen between my MacBook Pro's internal webcam so you can see what that would look like. And everything here is just auto settings. So I want you to see kind of worst case scenario. Literally all the lighting I have on is the lights in my house, and they're all behind me. So I have like literally no light hitting me. And this is what the shot looks like. Here's a quick comparison between the YOLO Cam S3's image quality and my Sony FX30, which I have placed right above it. This is my typical streaming setup that I use for all of my coaching calls and live streaming that I do here at Think Media. And then the S3 is just positioned right below it, and you can see the difference in image quality between the two. Yeah, I think if you look really close, you'll notice some differences in image quality, but I am shocked at how well the S3 is performing for being about 1/10 of the cost of the FX30. Now here's a few more side-by-side comparisons with the YOLO Cam S3 and a few different cameras, starting with the Insta360 Link 2C. This was my previous webcam that I would use anytime I was on the go, and you can see there's a pretty big disparity in image quality between the two. The next camera comparison is the original ZV-E10. This is the camera we've recommended for years, and you can see how it compares image quality wise with the ZV-E10. It's honestly really impressive that a little $200 camera can compete with an $800 mirrorless camera. And then finally, here is my $7,000 Sony A1 compared to the $200 YOLO Cam S3. Let me know down in the comments below how you think these two cameras compare. Now, if you want to unlock some customizations with this camera, I would download the YOLO Live Compose app, which is going to give you some extra customization and frame rate options, etc. with this camera that you're going to want to know about. The first little setting here is your aspect ratio. So you can actually very quickly with one click go from horizontal to vertical shooting, and you can even reorient the camera if you need, and then just go back to widescreen if you're recording in widescreen format. You also select your frame rate right here, and for some reason they have it in hertz right now, but they're actually going to fix this pretty soon. I asked them about this, and so this is where you'd select if you want like 30 frames per second, you'd actually choose 30 hertz, but this will all change, and you can go up to 60 frames per second with this camera. So for this video, I'm recording at 30 frames per second in 4K resolution. For image settings over here, I did make some adjustments, and something I notice often with webcams is that webcams tend to be a little bit overly sharp, and I prefer to add some of that sharpening myself in post-production with my editing software of choice. So I reduced the sharpening to -4 for this video. I even bumped down the contrast just a couple, and then I would go add some of those things back and just kind of color grade the footage on my own. But there are some customization settings you can do right here in the software. There's also this little lens shading correction that accounts for some of the vignetting that happens typically with wider angle lenses. I find that turning that on is going to help with that distortion a little bit. So for my video and my purposes, I leave this setting turned on. For autofocus types, you have 3 different options you can choose from. AFC, which is just continuous autofocus toward the center of the frame, AFS, which is like a single spot autofocus, and then face detection, which is what I would prefer to keep it on. And that's just gonna follow you around the frame. And I'm honestly really impressed at how this works. So those are the 3 options you have to choose from. I did wanna do some autofocus testing so you can see how it compares to even like the FX30, which is a $2,000 Sony camera with world-class autofocus. And you can see right here, as I do some side-by-sides, I'm really impressed with how the YOLO Live is able to keep me in focus even as I move around the frame in a bunch of different ways. And then you can actually see as I pop something into the frame, it will snag onto that, move it even closer. It does do a pretty good job at focusing on things that are closer to the camera. And then you just give it a second, it'll pop right back to you as the main subject to be in focus. You can recompose your framing a little bit with the zoom slider right here. So if I wanted a little bit tighter shot, like 54 millimeters, I could have a tighter shot. It goes all the way up to like, look at this. I think it's like 98 millimeters. Look at this wonderful shot of my mouth. And then you can just zoom back out to 50. And I think most people would like the wider field of view. And then you would just move the camera forward or backward to get your appropriate composition. What's nice about the zoom feature is if you choose 1080p video instead of 4K, you can do up to like 4 times zoom without losing any image quality because this is a 4K sensor. So pretty cool feature. Now I love the ability to manually adjust some of my settings, and you can do this with your exposure settings here. I have set manually my ISO to 320 for this video, and I could go up. I could go all the way up to like, 1000, 3200 ISO, whatever I want. It actually goes higher than that too. It goes all the way up to 12,800 ISO. But I found my exposure for my scene, I'm using a key light right now, that 3200 is proper. And then for shutter speed, you always ideally want your shutter speed to be double whatever frame rate you're shooting in. So I'm shooting in 30 frames per second for this video. So I'm shooting in 1/60 shutter speed, and that gets me that appropriate motion blur. So I love that they have the ability to adjust ISO and shutter speed. And then white balance, you can automatically allow to adjust, or you can manually adjust using different settings. So right now it's like way too purple, I need to adjust it, or you can do auto and unlock. So if I unlock it, you can see it shifts around a little bit, but the easiest way to get a good white balance is to just grab something white, like a white piece of paper, or even like the YOLO Cam box is pure white. I can put this in the frame and just give it a second. Then I'll scroll down and go ahead and lock the white balance. And now it's auto locked. And I think this looks really good. So if you want a quick starter, a way to get good white balance, just use a white piece of paper or a box or even a white card. That's more of a proper way to do it. You can purchase a white card off of Amazon or a gray card and use that for your white balance. There's also a fast color correction mode available on PC systems right now, but I'm a Mac user, so I don't have access to that. But I guess in like 1 to 2 months, YOLO Live is rolling out an update for Macs where you're going to be able to have access to that feature as well. So stay tuned for that. Overall, the software is really great, and there's a lot of customization you can do to the YOLO Cam S3 to get the picture looking exactly how you would prefer. Another big advantage to this camera is it really is designed for 24/7 streaming possibilities. So even something like TikTok Shop live shopping experiences, sometimes creators will go live for 12, 14, 20 plus hours for creating live content, or maybe you're gaming for 8 to 10 hours, a really long stream. This camera is not going to overheat on you in those circumstances ever. Now, a few future improvements that could be made to the S3 would be first, I think for creators like myself who work with a bunch of different cameras and sometimes try to match color and everything, it'd be great if there was some just preset options for color. And like maybe there'd be like a log preset where you could just click and everything becomes more like log cinematic flat picture profile. And then I could color correct this video to make it look a little bit more like my other cameras, or maybe even just like a soft cinema preset where it looks more in line with like what S Cinetone would look like on a Sony camera and not be too vibrant or too oversaturated. Just some quick presets I think would be pretty cool. And then the final thing that I would recommend they do with an update to this camera in the future would be to add an internal microphone, because right now there's no microphone on the S3. So if you want reference audio, even if you're just doing basic screen capture and recording, you don't have a reference mic. You always have to plug in some sort of external mic or rely on your internal computer audio, and the MacBook internal mics usually aren't that good. So I'd recommend putting in a decent reference mic in the YoloCam S3 and update in the future would be a big benefit for creators. So who's this camera designed for? I think it's really made for creators who work at a stationary location, kind of like a desk workspace or a home office or a bedroom. And you're more of a stationary creator where you talk to a camera. Maybe you do product demonstrations or coaching, lots of different ways, podcasting potentially, that this camera could be utilized. But the image quality is going to look so good. It's easy to set up and it's really affordable at under $200. Now, if you need a camera that you can have handheld or take out vlogging with you, you're going to want to go with a different camera option because this is really meant for stationary work. Now, if you want to check out the YoloCam S3, we'll link it down in the description below, as well as a little code that you can use at checkout to get a discount. Now, if you want to check out another video from us here at Think Media, you can click or tap the screen right here to watch that video, and we'll see you in the next one.